Hello, students. Uh, this is our first uh, video lecture on the STAT course. Uh, Video lectures represent one dimension of teaching and learning. Uh, the good thing about a video lecture is that you have it at home. You can play it at any time. You can always stop, pause, write notes, and goes slide by slide on the video and understand the contents based on what the teacher tried to explain to you. Uh, is it sufficient for learning a subject? The obvious answer, no. You need to rely on other sources or other resources, other dimensions of learning and teaching. You need to look at your slideshow if it's available. You need to look at your book chapter, and I cannot emphasize the importance of you referring to the book chapter in every chapter we will cover in this course. A book chapter will have more details, more text, more elaboration, more explanation. More importantly, it will have many examples to demonstrate many of the subjects within a chapter. And also, it will have questions at the end of the chapter that you need to refer to. Hopefully, try to answer all of them. The reason for that is you have assignments, you have exams, and in order to fulfill the requirements of these assignments and the exams, you need to read. And reading still an essential aspect of learning. After you finish with a course, after you graduate, if you ever have to go back to the subject that you studied in the college or university, you're always going to have to look for material to read. So if you are not a good reader, you really need to enhance this ability in you. You are a college student. You are not an elementary or middle school student. So you really need to be able to open a subject, read about it, and try to comprehend the material in it. With that, let us start our first chapter of this course. Most basic statistics courses will begin with an overview of basic statistics. Uh, and this book is no different. We will talk in this chapter about why should you learn statistics, what is statistics, and based on a good definition of statistics, we will go into some of the key terms or terminologies that you must get acquainted with early on, as these terms will be used throughout the whole course. In fact, they will become a household to you as you move from one chapter to another. Uh, the first question that you must ask yourself when you are taking any course is why I am learning about this subject. Most students really just start a course and never bother to ask themselves this question. If you don't ask yourself the question of why I am learning about this subject, then you are missing the big picture. You are missing the key objective of the course. So as a result, it becomes a real boring subject to you. So this is much like if you are trying to learn how to swim, you cannot just jump in the middle of the ocean expecting that that will teach you how to swim. You need to understand everything about the water, everything about the depth of the water, how you're going to perform swimming in the proper way. And the key issue here, why are you swimming? Are you trying to reach the other side, or are you trying to just have fun for a few minutes into the water, or what are you trying to do here? Why are you jumping in the water? Is it for the sake of learning how to swim per se, or you have a purpose? You may be preparing yourself to save people's life. In this case, being in this position, you're going to have to learn more, not only about how to swim, but also about how to save people if they are drowning in the water, for example. So the key issue here is why. Why are we learning statistics? Well, statistics is the science of life. That is how I define statistics in a very simple sentence. It's a science of life. Everything about life involves statistics. Unless you want to proceed in your life with subjective views of everything, which will lead you to nothing, and you will end up expressing opinion about issues without supporting evidence or data, which will affect your credibility, then in this case you need to learn statistics. You need to learn the statistics because it is the science of life. In any field, whether we are talking about social science, we're talking about psychology, we are talking about engineering, we're talking about business, statistics is everywhere. You just cannot proceed without using statistics. And I will explain that very shortly of why life cannot go on without understanding statistics. If you are talking, for example, about the world population and how it increases over the years, we learn that from statistics. We don't go and count every person that is born today. Yet, via statistics, we have ways to know how many people are born today and how many people will even be born tomorrow or in the next year. We call this estimation, as you will find out in statistics. You can always go into the world meter and look at how population has exploded over the last 100 years, for example. As you can see in this slide, while the world was going at a very low rate from the 17th or 18th century all the way to the 20th century, we are now talking about an explosion of population. And there are expectations that by the year 2050 or the year 2150, we're going to easily exceed 10 billion people living in this world. And why we learn about that? Because if you are conducting or doing or opening a business of your own, for example, then you need to estimate the growth of the population. This graph here is about the population in the world. You may want to repeat this graph regarding the growth of population in your city or in your state or where you're going to open the business. If you are a psychology student, then you may want to look at the population growth and start thinking about the impact of population growth in many psychological aspects, human stress, human behavior as the population grow, how different people who are living in a small growing area from people that are living in very big, dense cities, for example. You can learn about traffic jam. In case you guys do not know, traffic jam is a worldwide problem. Here in the States, Statistics will tell us that over 6 billion hours every year is being wasted in traffic jam. All of us face this issue as we come to school, as we go to work, and sometimes in a trip that will be 10 or 15 minutes, we may take 20 or 30 minutes, sometimes an hour if there is an accident or a problem on the highway. So, understanding that is part of learning statistics. Life expectancy, how long people are estimated to live in a city, in a state, in a country. You can even look at ranks of life expectancy by different countries around the world. And what does that mean? It means looking then into the factors that lead to higher life expectancy, like mortality rate, for example, at children age or at birth, like healthcare systems. These are all information that are critical for your life or for the job that you are in or for your future, as it will enlighten you with a lot of issues that you need to be aware of with supporting data that can help you understand the issue of life expectancy even better. Another issue, suicide rate, which is very high among youth in the age range from 18 to 25. And yes, it varies from one country to another. We need to know the suicide rate. We need to know the magnitude of the problem. If you are in the psychology field or social science, before you even touch upon why people commit suicide or what are the main causes, you need to grasp the data first. You need to know the statistics. Because in your state or in your country, you may not have a big issue with suicide rate. So in this case, you need to ask yourself whether it's worth it discussing or uh, investigating the issue or not. On the other hand, if you are in a country or a state or a city that suffers from a high suicide rate, then it's worth learning about this issue. And the starting point should be by measuring or understanding or realizing or knowing the magnitude of the problem. So, what is the suicide rate in your state? What is the suicide rate in your country? How your country is ranked among other countries around the world in terms of suicide rate? These are key questions before you can even discuss the issue of suicide. Happiness, even happiness has an index, and you can easily go on the website and or Google the term happiness, and you will find a rank of different countries by the happiness index. And once you know which country is in the top and which country in the middle or which country in the bottom, then you can go on and try to look at the metrics or the parameters that are used to evaluate or study the happiness in any country or any state, and so on. This slide here summarizes to you the reason why we need statistics, the reason why we learn the statistics. There are three challenges that will face you in your entire life. Number one, variability. Number two, uncertainty. And number three, subjectivity. Let's take the first one. Everything in life is variable. So, variability is indeed an inevitable phenomenon. People are different, that's variability. Practices are different, that's variability. Machines are different, that's variability. Even you yourself, as you go from one day to another, your mood, your attitude are different. Because of that, variability is a key aspect. As you will find out throughout this course, there is nothing that is deterministic. There is nothing in the world that's not variable. Even things that seem on the surface to be constant, you will find that they are indeed variable. It depends on the resolution of looking at these things. Okay? So, variability is the number one reason why we study statistics. Indeed, I define statistics often to my students as the science of dealing with variability. If we don't have variability in the world, then guess what? We do not need statistics. You follow me? The second reason to learn statistics is uncertainty. Most situations that we deal with, we do not know the outcome of what we're getting ourselves into. You are now taking a course in statistics, but you really do not know how good you're going to do in this course. Why? Because that will depend on so many factors. It will depend on how good the teacher is, it will depend on how good you are, how many hours you study, how much focus you have in this course. Are you following up with the course or you are slacking? Are you comprehending the material or not? And whether the material makes sense to you or not. So these are all uncertain situations in the beginning of taking a course. So am I going to be able to overcome all these obstacles or all these parameters? And to what extent am I going to get an A in this course or a B or C? A lot of students, by the way, ask me these questions at the beginning of the course. How I'm going to be doing in this course. After a week or two, students keep repeating this question again. Based on what I've done so far, how you think my grade is going to be at the end of this course? Well, this is a question about uncertain situation. And the way we handle uncertainty in statistics is by looking at the history of data, what we have available in terms of information. Very much like if you are opening a new business today, then how would you know if you're going to succeed in your business or you're going to fail? Well, you have no way of knowing that unless you look at other businesses that are very similar to yours and you look at the different factors that lead to a business success: location, personnel, labor, surface, and so on. Only statistics can help you dealing with uncertain situation. And yes, you can estimate many uncertain outcomes with a high level of reliability if you learn about statistics. The third reason for statistics or to learn statistics is subjectivity. And most of us tend to be very subjective in dealing with a lot of issues. Quite often, when I sit with someone, I can tell if he has had good education or poor education or no education at all. The way you represent yourself as an educated person is to avoid subjectivity in discussing many issues. You cannot just say traffic jam is bad or the traffic in this city is horrible. Well, this is something you can say sitting with someone in a bar, for example. But if you are talking about traffic jam, then you need to describe the problem quantitatively, describe the problem with numbers, with data. In my state, people get stuck in traffic every year for about 50 million hours. That is a number. That's a quantitative measure of the problem of traffic jam. When people hear this number, you really immediately get their attention. In fact, they often ask, where did he get this number? How in the world do you know how many hours are wasted in a traffic jam? Well, how do I know? The answer to that is in statistics, as we will show you by examples later on. So these are the three key parameters of why should we learn statistics? And you can imagine whatever the field you are in. And whatever the field you are in, even if you decide to stay home after you finish your education and be a housewife taking care of children, you still have to learn about variability, uncertainty, and subjectivity. And in order to deal with these three issues, you must learn statistics.